For our social media this week, we've been focused on the idea of rest and work and how that all kind of fits into our Christian lifestyle. So today I am with Hannah and I am with Beth, who are two of our voice leaders. You've probably seen them around at various points. And yeah, we're going to discuss this in a little bit more detail. So, in our culture, especially here in the UK, there's a lot of focus on work, whether it's kind of growing in your career, whether it's going to uni. There's so much workaholism out there. And the idea of a Sabbath or resting is really, really countercultural. So, Hannah, I wonder if you could kick us off and tell us a little bit more about what the Bible says about work and rest.
So I guess we see it in like the very first pages of the Bible when we hear the story of God creating like the universe. And in that, God works, so he makes the everything, and then he takes a day off at the end of the week, his Sabbath. And I think that's just a really interesting like pattern, like a balance of work and rest. So even the creator of the universe takes a day off like once a week. And then we see that in the New Testament as well, when Jesus says that the Sabbath was made for man, not the other way around, so that we were created in order to have, this was a gift for us, not something that we're, told to do or something that's controlling our lives, but is a real like gift of rest that we can take in our working lives.
Cool. Yeah, it's really interesting actually that it comes in almost straight away in
Yeah.
the Bible and that ultimately God rests. So
Yeah.
there's much more reasons for us to rest than there is for God to rest,
Yeah.
surely. Beth, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think that it's something that we're constantly learning throughout our lives. I don't think anyone could, put their hands up and say, I've definitely got this sorted. And I think it is something that is in a way meant to be difficult in the world that we're in. Like Abby was saying at the start, there's so much friction about kind of what the world says is rest and what is work. And for us, actually, we want to look at that from a biblical perspective. And I think that takes time and it takes learning, and it'll be different for each person as well in terms of kind of how they rest in God and what they're doing for work as well.
Yeah, definitely. So one example is going to be shown through a video that Simon has created. So Simon spent some time interviewing a pastor about his kind of experience with work and rest. So we're going to watch that now.
To help us think about our voice tuned in theme this week of balancing work and rest, I've been joined by Jonathon Bramwell, who's lead minister at Lynn Baptist Church. Welcome, Jonathon.
Hi, Simon.
And thank you for joining us today. Now, Jonathon, I know that balancing work and rest has been a part of your own story. So I just wondered if you'd like to share a little bit about your own experience.
Yeah, so I think my own experience really with the kind of work and rest balance, probably I've learned quite a lot actually from some bad experiences. And a number of years ago, I was in a job that meant I was working 6 days a week. I was doing really long hours, and I probably really wasn't looking after myself properly or well enough. And actually, it resulted in some quite serious health problems at the time. And I then had to reevaluate, what is God actually saying to me in terms of that work and rest balance? What have I got wrong that's not fitting in with sort of God's plans for me? So I think it led me to do quite a lot of reading around, quite a lot of thinking, quite a lot of reflecting, and trying to get that balance back into a sort of godly way of being.
And so how did overworking affect you? How did it manifest itself?
Well, I think if you overwork, your brain sort of runs out of space, doesn't it? I don't know if you find that, but if you've been working a really long day and then you don't take any time off, or you've been working a long week and you don't take a day off, and it just, everything spills and everything becomes work, and it's very difficult to enjoy the world that God has given us and, enjoy valuable relationships and friendships and good food or whatever it might be. And those things start to drift out and we start to just become obsessed with sort of one area of life, really.
Yeah, absolutely. From your kind of relationship with God and your journeying through this theme with him and your studies of the Bible as well, is there anything that has really stood out for you in terms of relating to God, what the Bible teaches about work and rest?
So right at the beginning of the Bible, when we get those creation narratives about how God made the world, one of the things God does is he rests on the seventh day. And it always amazes me, God who makes everything has to rest. He chooses to rest. He chooses to enjoy the world which he's made. And I think for me, that is the benchmark as a Christian, that I too need to rest. It's God's command. And if I don't do that, I suffer, and I don't enjoy the amazing world that God has placed us in to be part of.
Absolutely. And do you find that a challenge yourself, even now? I know you've touched on things in the past, but has that been a challenge to put into practice yourself? And are there other things that you try to prioritize or do to help you?
So, yeah, I think because there's always stuff in life to do, isn't there? And there's always distractions. I mean, we live in a really connected world now, don't we? And, like your phone's in your pocket, you've got your laptop on, whatever it is, and, message pings in and you go and look at that, or there's a job that needs doing or whatever, and anything can pull you away. So, I mean, one thing that I deliberately do now is to take a day a week that is set aside where I try not to check messages, I try not to get involved in anything that's work related, and just have that time to enjoy God, to enjoy the relationships that I have, to enjoy the world which God has put me in, and to be refreshed and to just experience some of the pleasure that I believe God has inbuilt into our world, of creation, of the amazing planet that we live in.
That's amazing. And if there was one top tip or one thing you'd like to maybe leave with our young people based on this theme of balancing work and rest, what might it be? If there's one thing you wanted to pick out for us.
I think for me it's pick out that if you want to rest, you have to get rid of those things that are your greatest distraction. Now, for some people that might not be work. It might not be that you're drawn to doing work, but for quite a lot of us, it can simply be our phone or our social media, and having the courage to turn those things off, and to sort of say, actually, this time is now for something else. I'm going to do something else with my time. I'm going to allow God to refresh me in different ways. So I think doing something really deliberate that says this time is now different is a really positive thing to do.
Amazing. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for sharing with us. And I'm sure what you've shared will be really helpful to our young people. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Simon.
So we just heard a little bit about Jonathan's experience of work and rest and how they became unbalanced, but then how he learned to regain balance between the two. So he talked around setting very specific rest times and having boundaries, such as having phone-free days. But I guess this is just one option and one person's experience. So I wonder if you two could share a little bit about how you guys find that work-rest balance, and perhaps share a slightly different perspective. Hannah, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. I remember at uni, this was like a really big topic for me. We had a sermon series on it in my church at uni, and it really hit me because I wasn't taking like rest at all in a really stressful academic environment. And I remember deciding, no, I won't be working on Sundays from now on. I won't be going to the library. I won't be reading through my essays. I won't be, doing work on Sunday. I'm going to take the time to be resting. And I often had deadlines on Sundays. I often had things that, were supposed to be handed in on Sundays. So I decided I'm going to be sending those on Saturday. I have to work a bit harder during the week, but that's okay. I'll get them done before Sunday, send them off, and then I'll have my Sunday free to maybe go for a walk, to enjoy going to church, to go to lunch with somebody. And now after uni, I'm really finding sort of that joy of taking time on Sundays to be not thinking about working, to not even check my emails, to then take time for a lunch with my family or, for a walk, and just to enjoy not being tied to, my work. Yeah. How about you, Beth?
Yeah, I guess I've been thinking a lot about I think when you first start thinking about work and rest, sometimes people can say this idea of rest. And I'm like, well, what is that? Like, what does that actually mean for me in my life? Like, my rest might look very different to someone else's idea of rest. So I guess one really practical thing is to write down what you actually find restful and how you can rest in God in that. So for example, I know that resting for me is not sitting watching Netflix. I'm not gonna be fulfilled by that, and I'm not gonna really be glorifying God in that time if I'm trying to actively rest. But for example, going for a walk, or playing my guitar, or even seeing people, whatever it might be that I actually find fulfilling and can glorify God in it. Whereas I think I used to think like, oh, rest, I have to like sit in a dark room all day and just like listen to God. But like for some people that might be what rest is for them. But I think it's working out what that is for you and how you can create the best environment for you to like relate to God and learn from him. And that doesn't have to necessarily be alone. Some people prefer to be alone, but it can be with other people and in nature or at home. It really depends on the person. So really thinking about what works for you.
Yeah, definitely. Can I just say that I am definitely someone who really loves to just relax by watching things on Netflix. We're not saying that this is wrong in any way, but
No.
it's about just finding something that is really suitable for you and helps you to switch off and relax. As I find that my time with God and the time where I genuinely just need to switch off are sometimes quite different. And so it is just finding that balance of what works for you. So yeah, thank you for sharing your experience, guys. I really appreciate it. It's really good to have some other voices in on these discussions. So thank you for joining us. And I hope that you all watching have found this to be really encouraging, and hopefully you've learned a couple of things too.